Hey folks, and welcome to the Daily Ratings Podcast. It's a show where each week we'll sit down with Vincent Daly to get his thoughts on the latest movies he's been watching, both older films and new releases. And don't worry, there's no spoilers. Vince will give a brief review of the movie, share some thoughts, and of course, then rate the film. The daily ratings are always fair, honest, and most importantly, they're consistent. On today's show, Vince will be rating and reviewing 47 Ronin by Carl Rinch, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish by Joel Crawford and Emmanuel Mercado. We have newly released The Pale Blue Eye by Scott Cooper, Skinamarink by Kyle Edward Ball, and finally, Missing, directed by Nicholas D. Johnson and Will Merrick. It's going to be a great show, folks, so stay tuned and enjoy. Mr. Vincent Daly, how we doing, buddy?
Thomas, how's it going?
It's going okay. Just got through the intro there. By the skin of my teeth.
It's a lot of co-directors.
Falling all over this and falling down the stairs on that one. How was your week of movies, man?
As you can tell, week's a little bit all over the place.
Surprisingly spooky for January.
True, and we'll have actually two other horror movies and new releases next week as well. We have Fear and Infinity Pool.
Yeah,
so.
I don't like it.
I
don't like it.
I think not only is the horror kind of a... Well, I guess this week it's really only Skinamarink. That's true horror.
Pale Blue Eye is just kind of thriller mystery.
Yeah, much more mystery. I thought it was going to be more of a thriller, more of a horror, but
Missing was more so thriller mystery as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Still,
but your observation is dead on because January is kind of like the dump month, and I feel like a lot of things get dumped in there. Usually,
well, we cover enough in October. Cover enough in October.
I'm not trying to be scared,
but we do have something fun though. At least we do have a fun one that we like that we're going to get to.
Right.
Okay, so let's start with the first one because I don't know exactly the connection here. This is going back to 2013. Everything else came out in like 2022.
Yep.
It again
fairly new week. Yeah.
Yes. Missing is technically the only one that came out in 2023. Mm-hmm. Pale Blue Eye, Skinamarink, Puss in Boots for 2022. We're kind of throwing those.
Did you say Piss and Boots?
No, I don't think so.
Piss and Boots. That's.
But it's a little bit of catch up, but it's also a little bit of proper newly release. Finally,
yeah.
Regardless, so our first one is back in 2013. Is this 47 Ronin? It didn't do well when it came out.
It's not doing well today.
What made you? I don't know What was going on through your head?
So, folks, Tom knows I was a bit of a procrastinator this week. We watched the first movie out of the 5 together on Friday, so it was scrambling together.
Yes.
So I needed,
and what's not this? I have no part of this.
No, yeah. I needed an easy one. And you might be saying, oh, what about Plane? What about Megan? Methregan? And to that I say, and those two movies do not have John Wick in it. So 47 Ronin, actually pre-Wick. This is 2013. This is before the colossal rise or the return of Keanu Reeves.
You think he went away? You think he had a return?
Oh, return with John Wick? Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
Absolutely. I actually remember when Neon Demon came out, and it was kind of like, whoa, he's a supporting actor in this. What's going on, Keanu Reeves?
That is true. That is true.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. You turn me around on that one.
I won you over.
This did come out Christmas Day too, so it's just
really?
like some of these, but it's just back in 2013.
Right,
but an easy watch, a 2 hour and 8 movie. Keanu Reeves samurai movie?
I thought it was going to be easy watch. I had a lot more to say about it, but let's go into some of the elevator pitch here.
Yeah, go
so
for it.
47 Ronin is set in a mythical, magical fantasy Japan, but the story and the skeleton of the story is based off of a real legend from the feudal era. We follow Keanu Reeves, a half-breed exile that is tied to mystical forces around Japan. And we also follow the actor Hiroyuki Sanada, a similarly exiled samurai without a lord, and that is, of course, what makes a Ronin, a samurai without a lord. It is true to the Japanese legend. They gather up forces to overcome a shogun ruler with only 47 swords strong. So that's basically our kind of fantasy setup. And the film is split, not well, but it is split between trying to tell the real legend in Japanese folklore and then mixing in these fun, magical elements, mystical elements, like a witch fox and fantasy beasts and whatnot within the storytelling. Unfortunately, that's the side that works, and that's the only the sprinkling to it trying to tell this, this epic.
So I'm surprised it does work, because it comes across a little bit looking like Suicide Squad-y people.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, maybe the one tattoo guy.
Definitely.
Yeah, right.
But it didn't feel superhero-ish at all, right?
No, not at all. If anything, this is too boring to be called
okay, all right.
superhero-ish. Yeah. I'll focus on some of the good.
Right. So you said with those characters are good and introducing them.
Yeah. I think the film is interesting because it's trying to juggle a real samurai tale and then a mythical type of perspective on Japanese legends and Japanese creatures. Design wise, I think is where it really works. Creatures, monsters, set design really looks great. And I think this is where I would, in the rare comment I make on budgets, point to this movie's budget. This was a colossal failure as far as a budget to box office return, but design is where a lot of this budget goes, and probably getting Keanu Reeves amongst an all-Japanese cast. The armor design in this is outrageously cool, like really, really awesome stuff. Not historically accurate in the least,
Okay.
But again, I think the magical side is what works here and is what's really eye-catching. And holy shit, how is the CGI in this better than any Marvel film probably in the last 6 years? And this is from
Good
2013.
CGI.
Good
Well,
CGI.
Is it limited? Is that why?
Right. I would say it's maybe the real big focus of maybe like 5 scenes. Again, they're trying to tell a story much more about these Ronin, these samurais overthrowing the Lord,
right.
And it's just sprinkled with this magical stuff. But the magical stuff that is there, and that is CGI, looks awesome. Like, no joke. It holds up and is better than a lot of what we're seeing.
Like Marvel and everything like that.
Yeah, I was just scratching my head. Why was this case? Only thing I can come up with is that it was probably a fairly not cheap movie to make, but you have a full Japanese cast. You're not spending a lot of that budget probably in actors and whatnot. It was all going towards design.
So after set and costumes, that's so much money in those 5 scenes could be honed in with the CGI that they did need to, and then the rest of the money in sets and things like that, and armor and everything. Yeah. I mean, it had 2013 a budget of. I mean, I'm getting 170 here. Is that what you got?
Yeah, 175. Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot for. There was bigger budgeted films back then, but not a lot of bigger budgeted films.
Right.
Like you get over 150, that's still big time. That's still big time.
Absolutely. Universal Studios was behind this, of course.
You're right. They were talking this up. You know what this reminds me? It would be a cool special, but it wouldn't be. But the whitewashing of Asian legends. You would have this, The Great Wall.
Last great
Samurai.
Choice. Absolutely.
Yeah, Last Samurai.
Last Samurai. I mean, we could do Ghost in the Shell with Scarlett Johansson. We want to focus on whitewashing there, but yeah, absolutely. And you hit on some of the problem of what this film is.
They all kind of fall into a certain.
Unfortunately,
Last Samurai might be a little bit different.
Yeah,
that actually might hold up still and be pretty good. But this was always
From the get-go.
And you saw this before? Or no.
No.
Wow.
No. And that's
You're
why
kinda
it was
excited
kind
for
of...
it.
Yeah, it was just kind of
Puss
like...
in Boots, you want to see swords? You're in the sword fighting mood?
Right, I was in the sword fighting mood. I was just on the... I need to kind of turn my brain off, and then I saw the critical reception of this, and I play my favorite game is, are they right or are they wrong? And unfortunately, they were pretty right. But like I said, there is something to appreciate here about design and world building. I think the problem with me here is that, it just does not focus on the fantasy as much as it should, and it's a shame because that's where, it looks great, but is this kind of colossal box office failure. And it's a shame that the CGI pays off in a good way because maybe it's what back in 2013 was a growing trend of saying, hey, let's not put all the money we can towards making perfect CGI. Let's pump it out and see what actually comes back in the box office.
Right, right.
But there's a few elephants in the room to explain the horrible scores online for 47 Ronin. First of all, let me just say it is real boring in fat chunks, chunky chunks of boring, bore you to tears, nothing going on, just tough.
Especially if Keanu's delivering lines.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a real snoozer. And I mean like really boring. There's just not enough focus on the cool fantasy. It's fantasy Japan with, like I said, I mean, everything from fox witches to bird monks, and loosely ties that all together, but loses that as the focus very quickly because, again, it's trying to juggle this real samurai fantasy or the real samurai legend of the 47 Ronin. So
I would assume that I assume going into it, I would enjoy the real rather than the fake.
Yeah.
But the problem is you're saying that the fake is just like, there's really nothing there. It's boring.
Yeah, it's
there's
just
nothing
flat out
there.
boring. Yeah.
No, like, decent history, like, true samurai culture history.
Mm-hmm. I mean... in the sense, you do kind of get a grasp of how important, honor and concepts like Bushido are to these characters.
But it's butchery. They're doing a bad job at it.
Yeah, I mean, this is not, you watch a Kurosawa film, don't watch 47 Ronin by Universal Pictures.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, I think it's just, they wanted their cake and eat it too. That cake being a fun fantasy epic and as well a true to legend Japanese story.
Right.
And it just doesn't work. Or at least in execution. Something that's not brought to light in a lot of the online dialogue is that this has no right being in English. Not only would it be a perfect match as far as content, as far as acting, to have this very large Japanese cast just speak in their native tongue, but it would just solve the biggest issue. And again, people shy away from this kind of criticism online. It's bad Japanese accents delivering English lines. Listen, in no way am I saying that a full Japanese cast should not be applauded. I like what they're going for here, but countless supporting actors stumble through English lines time after time again, and it sinks the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it probably makes the script and the dialogue sound worse than it is. I really do think if this would be in Japanese tongue, in their natural language, talking about these concepts, I think it would go a long way.
Now, the main guy alongside Keanu, he's pretty American, correct?
Yeah. We actually, Hanada was in Bullet Train recently.
Oh, okay, all right.
So,
yeah, he's in things. You would recognize him.
Absolutely.
But he doesn't have much of an accent, right? It's just
it's
other supportings coming in.
It's the 45 of the Ronin,
okay.
and anyone else supporting in like the the shogunate and all the Japanese royalty.
I mean, it would probably come across as way more authentic and way more true to true to what it's supposed to be. I mean, that goes without saying, though, if it was in Japanese.
Exactly, and I think that's the biggest tragedy of it is because if it's failing in this fantasy, how is this telling the legend of the 47 Ronin?
Yeah.
It's that's also a huge missed opportunity because it could have been something that's just fun enough, but really gets across this folklore legend.
It would have been wild with all this money and time put into it if Keanu did all the lines in Japanese. If it was a Japanese movie. It would be like Will Ferrell when he did that Spanish film.
Oh, right.
To date, Will Ferrell said he's the proudest he's ever been in
the work
filmmaking.
He's put into it.
Yes. because of how difficult that was. And then maybe his line delivery would sound better because we wouldn't know. It's just Keanu.
Yeah, it's just Keanu. Yeah.
I kind of like him in this role still. Is that weird? Like, was it weird? It's like way better than Matt Damon being in The Great Wall.
I haven't seen Great Wall, so I'll leave that up.
All right, yeah.
Right.
I'm talking to my grandmother all the time.
Right. Yes, it's most definitely better than Matt Damon in Great Wall. But yeah. Yeah, I just think that's just such the biggest tragedy of it. So sadly, here, folks, believe the hype on this one. It's not that anyone asked for 47 Ronin from 2013. I would say maybe look up some screenshots of the gorgeous design and cool CGI. But that's about as far as it goes. We're going to go ahead and give 47 Ronin a 26.
Oh, wow, 26.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's bad.
And that's shooting north of what people think about this movie as well.
Yeah, oh man, 26 is whew, boy. And what did you was the runtime too? Like, was it 2 hours and 8 minutes? Was it dragging, or was it just like it was just a bad movie? So
honestly,
it was just
the
bad.
runtime wasn't the yes, it very much was just a flat out bad movie.
Yeah.
Runtime really wasn't the problem, though. If anything, it was just the pacing of the scenes themselves. You know, I mean, I was fine with how much time they took to build up the forces and tell the story, but.
Especially for that type of, it's not that it's an epic, but it's close to, it is a very large movie, or it's supposed to be at least. 26, that's a bad movie. Okay.
Okay.
Not
starting off strong.
Yeah, I was going to say starting out 2023, not too strong. Let's go into this. We'll do
how
this.
about you tell the story of how we.
Well,
yes,
what
and
I'm
I
saying
mean we folks.
Well, we'll do this film, and then we'll go into new releases, right?
Okay, yeah.
Because this came out Christmas. It came out almost a month.
Right.
Well, it came out a month ago. So. Okay, so this is Puss in Boots, The Last Wish.
Right.
And Vin, we saw this. We have not been in the movies together. We have not gone to the movies together.
In quite some time.
Over a year, because it was No Time to Die, which I think was November of 21.
Right.
So now we're in 23.
Yep.
And I said, what are you doing Friday? We'll go see a movie.
Yep.
And I was pulling the entire time to go see Puss in Boots. I was
secretly,
the one.
Really? Wow. He played it sly, folks.
No. I mean, I made my things right. You know, I made it known. I think this movie should have gotten watched.
Right.
It's Puss in Boots. I didn't see the first film. Were there 3? I think there were only 2. And
I think it's 2 and then 3 Shrek.
Yes. Okay.
Which we very briefly floated. Do we make a Shrek themed episode?
You floated it. You floated it and took it back immediately. I asked you 15 minutes later. You're like, no. I'm not
End
going
of
to
the night, he goes, "So you doing the Shrek episode?"
But yeah, Vin and I, at last second, we were like, we got to go to this showing. So we went. We made sure to stop by the liquor store first.
For a children's movie.
And the sounds of Vin opening of his Jameson bottle as soon as the movie was beginning.
Too much. We're gonna get thrown out of the theater next time.
Theater experience. There was some brats behind us.
Yeah, you were really tuned into this. I mean, I'm seasoned.
Cool guys. No, you know me. I can't have anyone chewing their popcorn too much, biting their fingernails next to me. I can't. I want complete silence. And stillness. Little bit of a chatty theater, but it was surprisingly pretty crowded still.
Yeah,
like I said,
absolutely.
I think this is the 4th weekend it's been out.
Yep.
And
this is like the Friday night outing for families, but also very much a teen demographic too.
Yeah, the teen boys behind us were a little annoying. They were getting a little cocky, and then trying to be cool. You know, that's what they do.
Right.
And then so some families. I saw some older couples there. Surprisingly crowded, which we were not expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Two dudes going to see it. Puss in Boots. So we saw the film. I have no context.
That's all right. That's the kickoff. I can get into it.
Okay. Why don't you get into it? I think it's fair to say I haven't seen Shrek 3 in a while, so I'm not even used to the character that much. I didn't see the first movie of Puss in Boots.
Right.
I was hearing this was doing okay, which is why I kept on bringing it up.
Yeah, a lot of praise online.
And Puss in Boots was an actual previous movie. And an old character.
Yeah.
In real life, like in the 60s and stuff, in the 60s and 70s.
Real?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It was like born from something. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I guess all things in Shrek are callbacks to some sort
which
of
is
fairy
cool.
tale
Yeah, which
type
is
of
cool.
thing. Yeah.
But why don't you well, that's enough me kind of stumbling. Why don't you keep going?
No, more so a good introduction because we had, I mean, the fact that this was the first of the week, the first choice among two guys hanging out on Friday night, and then the theater experience. It's a perfect storm. All right, so DreamWorks back at it with the powerhouse Shrek IP here, and I think this looks to be hinting at the return of the Green Ogre, which is very interesting and certainly will be a flagship for DreamWorks. Only other DreamWorks animation we covered was The Bad Guys, and this movie is another perfect example of this studio's blended art style of 3D figures with drawn 2D effects. Would you say the same?
Definitely. Yeah. And not like it was heavy. It's sprinkled in that 2D effect.
Yeah.
And I think, especially in action scenes, and I think worked pretty well.
Yeah, it's more like drawn lines, a little bit comic bookish, a little bit anime, so, but right in line with Bad Guys. Yeah. It seems to be their niche in the market here. The legendary cat adventurer Puss in Boots has burnt out 8 of his 9 lives. This puts him on a journey to find a falling star, which can grant him a wish to get his lives back. A wish, in Fantasyland or not, something coveted by many, and this puts many characters on Puss in Boots' tail, including other fairy tales, as is the Shrek way. We have Goldilocks and the 3 Bears being a prominent character that is on his tail. Comedy-wise, I think this is where it stays right in line with the Shrek tradition of spoofing on classic fairy tales. And while it's cute at times, there's a much larger emphasis on action in this movie. And that's where I was maybe even sad I didn't touch on the original Puss in Boots, because if that was the switch there as well, that it's less about comedy, more about kind of action set pieces or adventure set pieces, I think I would have been prepared a little bit more for the switch in this movie. But a lot more action. Believe it or not, the first 30 minutes is packed back to back with stylish fight scenes, and honestly felt right out of an anime. Again, I think it's just it may be just the talent working at DreamWorks right now, but they have a good eye for stylish action, which I was happy to see here.
I was going to say, so you enjoyed it overall?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I thought the blending of it was cool. It's not often that we're not really used or accustomed to being used to an animation style for a film, and then just them being like throwing it out of the book at sometimes, you know what I mean? Or just throwing it out sometimes, going with something new.
Sure.
The blendedness is very cool. I hope we see it in more. Because like you said, it was comic bookish, it was fast, it was that anime, and it was perfect for action and the action that they're going for.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I just think I think it was a fun adventure film overall. I think it's I would call it a proper adventure film, as is referred to in the past, especially when a map to the star is introduced. We have specific set pieces called back to as if they are mile markers or checkpoints for our characters to overcome, and a classic adventure type of focus or type of story structure to it. Oddly enough, the whole film has a Western vibe to it. Believe it or not,
I think it's underlaid.
Yeah,
I would say it pops up now and again.
Right.
Would you say the whole thing was a real Western?
So I put more thought in this. I think.
Because that something happened and you looked at me and you were like, it's just a Western. And then I think I was just like, kind of. I was right. Don't get too excited.
I think the nods are like 50-50 to a Good, the Bad, and the Ugly structure where they're all going after one treasure, but without the Civil War side branch of Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And as well, I think I put more thought into this. With Antonio Banderas being the voice here, I think this absolutely is a little bit of a shout out to Desperado and those type of movies as well.
Okay.
Which, action movies, but definitely callbacks to spaghetti westerns.
There were cool, I would say there was some cool Western elements, some window dressings.
Yeah,
I would never put this into animation /Western/adventure.
No. It's still family movie. It's just that it's.
I mean, I was happy to see it. It was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something about the bounty hunters, the gangs, the chase after the treasure. That's what kind of gave me the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly vibe to it. But it is still a family movie, so payoff of a Western is going to be a lot of directions, honestly, but it doesn't have a Western-style payoff.
Yeah, and we're not watching Rango here.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, that's a great point, that Rango is family animated, but still 100% Western.
Yeah.
I think I just had a lot of fun with the music, a lot of guitar and whistling, and honestly, this style, again, it was unexpected for the film. I think for me, some really solid animation, really solid design, and personally, I think it does rank below some of the larger releases of 2022. But it's a good watch nonetheless, and I don't really have much more to say about it. I can give the score if you want.
No, I'm going to talk about it.
Yeah, you go. Okay.
I was in.
You were on the fence if you were given the Tommy Two Shoes or not.
Well, no. The rule was in the theater when the previews were on, we were saying if we're ever in the movies, me and you together at the cinema.
That's the must.
I have to give it a shoes.
Okay.
I either have to care about it enough, yes, or I give it a shoes. Well, I'll say this.
Yeah.
I really liked it. I liked it more than I thought. I didn't really. I mean, again, I didn't know what the first one was. Didn't really know what we were walking into.
Yeah.
You heard The Last Wish, and you can kind of maybe think of some things and everything like that. I thought the premise was really good. I thought the characters were good. The animation was good. I feel like there was much more integration of fairy tale aspects, maybe. I feel like they went hard on the fairy tale stuff.
Sure.
I mean, it was just funny, the Baker's Dozen stuff. There were multiple times where you and I actually genuinely had laughed.
Yeah.
It had some of that adult humor in a couple spots.
That's the sweet spot for Shrek.
For sure.
Yeah.
And decent, just kids animation, honestly.
Yeah.
Make the adults in the room also enjoy it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said. I didn't like the first 10 minutes. I won't say I didn't like the first act. I didn't really like the first 10 or 15 minutes. If I watched it again, now that I know what I'm dealing with, I would like it a little bit more.
You're kind of seeing where it fell.
Well,
what was it going for?
Exactly. I really didn't know what the deal was. So I think in hindsight, now that you know, I kind of would like it better. But watching it, I was like, okay, I wasn't loving the first 10, 15 minutes. I still hold up with the last 20 minutes were a little for me.
Sure.
I kind of lost it on that last act a little bit. But for the majority of it, I enjoyed and was excited to see this story develop.
Yeah.
I thought the writing was good as well. So I really liked it.
What's the Tommy Two Shoes?
I go first? You want to get the Tommy Two Shoes first? I wish we had more to say about it, but I think generally it was a good animated movie. And for the fact that it's a second movie off of a spin-off character from a previous 4-slot animated thing. I think it's impressive that they're not. It doesn't feel milked dry yet.
Yes, it doesn't feel stale, even with all the same type of fairy tale satire setup.
Yeah, I think they should maybe stop it now. Like just the way this ended. I don't know if a third one. I'm sure they will come out with a third one. I don't know if anyone would really be asking for it.
Sure.
But, I mean, good job, really. It's doing okay in theaters. I think it's at like 175-ish or something like that, 150 mil domestic, which is not bad for today's standards in theaters, at least. So.
And really, it's just the hype around the film. I mean, it's getting a lot of critical praise to it. And I think that's what kind of landed it on our radar to say, maybe we should see this on a Friday night.
Well, the first time I even noticed there was a Puss in Boots is I believe it came on the Golden Globes. It was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Animated.
Really?
And I was just like, was animation so bad that the second Puss in Boots movie? And I was like, get the hell out. Get out of here.
Yeah, that's a good
but then I found, people are actually giving this some daylight to it.
Yeah.
It's still in a lot of theaters. So again, it's been in theaters for a month. It's still in theaters, and it looks like the theater count hasn't gone down that much. So it's definitely in a theater near you.
Yeah.
And
for our experience,
still a good, fun watch. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess with that said, we're going to go ahead and give Puss in Boots The Last Wish a 72.
Wow, hey, jumped into the 70s.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Maybe not the heights of what everyone's hyping it up to be, but...
and Bad Guys gave a 75.
Yes, and I think this would... That's a great callback. I think this would rank lower, even in DreamWorks' own products, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Yeah. And for me, I'm pretty much right there with you. This gets a very positive 2 shoes.
2 shoes.
And I'm at the higher end of the 2 shoes, I would say.
Right. The nuances. The laces are almost tied.
Yes. Well, one of the laces is almost tied, but not quite. But no, it gets a really good 2 shoes, which don't forget is a good movie. I would say 2 shoes is...
Got 2 shoes
like
on.
a 55 to a 72, 73-ish.
Excellent. I mean, you got 2 shoes on. You can't be in trouble too much. You know?
Exactly right.
Yeah, you're not walking barefoot.
But yeah, I think it gets a 2 shoes easy for me.
All right, good. So there's your children quota out for 2022. I covered probably all of the children's films, so whether I wanted to or not.
All right, Finn, and with that, we're going to go into our producer segment here because we do have a producer this week.
Oh, wow.
And we're going to give a big, huge thank you to Brandon. Beebe is back.
Brandon's back.
We thought maybe he might have been man overboard. He is not.
I thought you lost.
He is still with us, and he's donated multiple times.
Yep.
Brandon donated this time around $59.
Wonderful.
$59. He says, the award show was okay. Disappointed that the Sonic movies didn't win any awards. According to Vinny, it's the best advertising movie.
Oh, that's a category right there.
I know, and I think he's right, because I think what was the Walgreens movie? The witches.
Hocus Pocus 2.
Yes, weren't a fan. But Sonic did get 59, and that's why Brandon also gave $59.
Excellent.
He goes, I know how much Vinny loves kids' movies, so come on, Vinny, torture yourself a little for us dads who need to know the great kids' movies to go take our kids to.
We're coming right off of it.
Yeah,
talking about good times.
Yeah, go see Puss in Boots. That's a good one for yourself. Out of 72. Brandon, you continue to be a producer of the Daily Ratings. He's creeping up there.
Absolutely.
As far as you've donated a lot, and we cannot appreciate it enough.
Yeah.
And it's so good to see. Last week we had a new producer. Mm-hmm. We do have some producers coming back, especially like Brandon, which is so incredible. You know,
absolutely. It's much appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and when you look at all the podcasts out there, I was reading an article even today, and it's crazy because you have 3 ways to make money on podcasts. You can have exclusives, so Spotify will buy you up, or this podcast will network, and you only do your podcast on that. They shell out money for that. Then you have ad reads, and then of course you have subscriptions or paywalls. Kind of, you got to pay to play essentially. Or people do all 3 combined, or some type of combination of them. So I cannot tell you the amount of podcasts that I personally listen to. Been in the past year or 18 months, they have amped up the ads.
Really?
I'm talking 4, 5, 6 ads for 45-minute, hour-long podcasts.
Oh, man.
You become the product.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It almost feels insulting to a certain extent. It's
point.
ridiculous. And on top of that, a lot of these guys that up their ads still have paywall stuff. Still say, hey, give us money. You can access all this stuff and hear all these ads. It's ridiculous.
Right.
Vin and I, folks, we don't want to deal with that. We don't want to do anything of that. We don't want to treat you like a product.
Sure.
You know, that's not how we look at you. We look at you producers of the Daily Ratings, because all of you guys actually is what keep this going. We don't want to go to advertising networks and say, oh, look at how many numbers we have. Look at all these people who listen.
Or, God forbid,
what
that
can you give us?
affecting
What can you
scores
give us?
and ratings
And just
as well.
all the BS. It's ridiculous.
To play a game and not have to talk honestly about a movie.
And everybody, hey, people different have. It's when you think of all the money, some people just don't have that money to spend. To do tier structures, to do paywall stuff, it's also ridiculous because you have the big guys like Spotify.
Sure.
And they make some money off of your paid subscription. You give $10 a month to Spotify. I looked at the revenue recently. They don't make nearly enough off that. They make a vast majority off ads. The problem is even the ads still aren't enough anymore. So now they're going to up the ads a little bit, but now they're also going to do paid tier structures. The Spotify people and everything like that, they did some conventions and stuff. And they're lying to people saying how the RSS feed is outdated. And they're saying, well, in order to do this new stuff we want to do, in order to do this stuff we need to do, it's this new technology and it's expensive, and we're going to be doing it. And there's going to be tier structures, and then you can go in and say, well, if you want to listen to our stuff, you need to buy into it because we need to do it. It's a lie. The RSS feed is up and running. There's great things happening with the RSS feed, just basic podcast stuff, open platform things to keep it free, to keep it just like I said, open source, and it's beautiful. Spotify is appling themselves, where they're going to create a wall that either you're in or you're out.
I mean,
and it's
from
hostile.
A business perspective, it makes sense, but not good for the
It's
consumer.
so hostile, and it's just not good for podcasts in general. But when you do the value for value, which is what it is, it's not. People just want to get rich quick. That's what they do. How many advertisers can we give people before they turn off? One. And then 2, can people just pay us money and we'll go exclusive with them and yada, yada, yada. For us, it's not a get quick rich scheme, definitely.
No.
But we hope one day this can provide enough for us to keep doing it and to provide better and better content for you. We want to create value and the best value that we possibly can with our resources, with our time for you. And if you're getting some of that value, stick a number to it. You go to thedailyratings.com, and like Brandon did, you can go ahead and just give a value for donation. Brandon decided to give $59 for his own personal reasons this time. We have set donations, or you give as much or as little as you want. Did we make you laugh this week? You watch a movie because of us this week? What's the value for that? If it's just a few bucks, we would appreciate a few bucks.
Absolutely.
That's value that you're showing that you appreciate it. And of course, you get the producer credit in your name. You write it a note, just like Brandon did, and we thank you all so much. So it's a little bit of a speech. Again, I was reading the article, was doing some research, and it's funny to see some companies doing very well.
Sure.
But things are actually starting to crumble in kind of that podcast world. And it's kind of funny to see people panicking and people don't know how to do the revenue stream and everything like that. You just screw the meetings, screw all that BS.
Yeah.
Are you listening? Are you enjoying it? And are you finding it valuable? It's dailyratings.com. Go to the donations tab. And Brandon, thank you so much. You were the executive producer for episode 67. We cannot thank you enough.
I'll see you at Sonic 3 with Shadow the Hedgehog.
All right, Vin, with that, we're going to go on to our next film. This came out on Netflix in January.
Yes.
So it counts as 2022.
But yeah, you were saying that this was an earlier release?
It needs to be in theaters. It's a 2-week thing. Regardless, January 6th, this came out on Netflix. This is Christian Bale in The Pale Blue Eye. This is, again, a 2-hour and 8-minute movie. It's rated R, kind of a mystery crime thriller. Not so much horror, as you were saying. Mm-hmm. But why don't you take it from there and set it up for us?
Okay, so yeah, The Pale Blue Eye, director Scott Cooper here. Doesn't have a huge catalog of films, but a very solid run of films. We know him from Hostiles, which, going way back when, was a movie that we watched in theaters.
We did. We liked overall. I don't think a lot of people liked it, honestly.
Yeah. In fact, actually, very interesting. I feel very similar how I did about Hostiles with Pale Blue Eye, but I'll save that for a little bit.
Okay.
And my favorite of his work, absolutely Black Mass with Johnny Depp. I mean, him playing Whitey Bulger is huge.
Yeah, you did like him in that. And a lot of people, again, didn't really love that movie.
Yeah, I for me...
It's not Goodfellas status or anything like that, but I enjoyed it.
And if anything, had its identity apart from Goodfellas, you know what I mean?
Right.
It was kind of its own thing, mixed documentary style. So here we have Cooper tackling a period piece mystery. And to even our intro... I was kind of misinformed on this film. I thought this was more of like a horror thriller. It is much more of a straightforward mystery. Christian Bale plays a seasoned detective in 1800s New York. He is brought to West Point Military Academy to investigate a grisly, ritualistic murder. And one sharp cadet is there to assist him, none other than Edgar Allan Poe, played by Harry Melling on this. Kind of interesting. I definitely went down a rabbit hole to see if Edgar Allan Poe ever served at West Point. And he did for a brief time. So this is kind of a...
I don't know if I knew that. Wow.
Yeah, I know. Doesn't that sound not like Edgar Allan Poe? I'm sorry. It doesn't sound like he would be in a military academy, no less, one of the greatest. So this one was interesting because it kind of has a historical fiction element to it. I would say Bale is decent. The real star here is Harry Melling. I only knew him from, I think, Battle of Buster Scruggs. He played one of the characters in the anthology there. But yeah, he was phenomenal as the legendary author. And performance-wise, I mean, as crazy as it is, kind of outshined Bale in his own pilot. You know what I mean?
Really?
This was his movie. And
what was the screen share time?
I would say probably maybe a good 60-40. I mean, he really shared a lot of the screen time and definitely a lot of the development of characters that Bale will kind of get to with the mystery. It's very interesting as far as how he's involved with the mystery, because he's not like a detective or anything like that, but he's just very intellectual and, eccentric even as well, to maybe see some of the dots that aren't there for Bale's character in this, again, kind of ritualistic, almost spooky, murder spree. But
because he looks a little dorky. He's in like Harry Potter and everything like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see. Not the Fantastic Beast. No wand spanking from this guy. Yeah, just a note. I mean, Bale was good. Melling was better though. And I thought that was a big win.
Rather surprising.
Yeah. Surprising in a good way. I would say this is, elevator pitch here, folks. It is a grim investigative mystery, and most of its structure is very straightforward for a detective story. Yeah, interviews give way to clues give way to leads, and scenes are strung together as the mystery unfolds. I would say it's not a bad film by any means. It's just a little straightforward and simple, is all. Each plot event is directly followed up with the next, and it's just lacking some variation, is all. I like where this movie goes eventually. It's just, it needed some engagement, it needed some variation, and just how it was strung along. It's just too direct.
Plot basic.
Yes,
kind of.
Plot structure basic.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying I could predict where this was, because if anything, you only kind of can guess the stage ahead of you, which I thought was a good quality for a mystery. You want to kind of problem solve with the detective. It just was unfolded a little bit too basic, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah. And like I said, I think there is a lot of praise I can give Bale's character for being logical and kind of escaping a stereotypical Sherlock Holmes type of setup to it. But yeah, in execution, it just lacks some engagement and might just be a little bit too slow-paced for people, especially for a Netflix release. This is something that I think can have some time to shine briefly in the Netflix window, but it's going to get very quickly lost to the black hole of Netflix for that same reason.
I think it is kind of in the black hole already.
It's already at the event horizon.
But it's seeming like a lot of comparisons to Hostiles, where it's kind of the same deal.
Yeah.
People think it's slow, and also the plot, there's nothing crazy that happens as far as...
It's not groundbreaking.
No.
Yeah.
And in that, it's a simple film, and I'm sure this isn't a simple film.
Sure.
But it does follow kind of a structure.
Yeah.
And you can't, definitely. You can't say Hostiles doesn't do that.
Right. And in a similar way, I can't describe these movies as bad or anything like that, but there's just, it's lacking the spark. The rewatchability, certainly, and that type of spark or electricity that says, oh, you gotta go see this. You gotta make time to watch this.
Right.
And that's where I kind of fall on a lot of, gut reactions to my scores as well.
So a couple questions on aspects of the film.
Sure.
So how was the music?
Music, Howard Shore.
Yeah, okay.
Really good.
Okay.
Wow. Talk about if you had to hear this soundtrack, boy, does it sound like Howard Shore. His iconic French horns that we hear in everything from Lord of the Rings to anything that he touches. Really are amped up here. So it's a good soundtrack from Howard Shore.
Okay.
And I liked a lot of the feel of the film as well.
So I was going to say, how was film editing and cinematographer?
Editing, not too noticeable, honestly. Okay. Cinematography, I liked a lot. I think color design, believe it or not, is a good highlight of this film.
Okay.
That is maybe, unique to Cooper's other works. Snowy white landscapes are contrasted with a pop of blue uniforms from the military academy. And I think when I was watching this, why I enjoyed it more so than even the mystery, more so than the performances, it captures the cold, unpersonal feel of a Northeast winter.
Yeah.
This felt like Westchester, New York, no less in the 1800s. You know what I mean? This felt like a New York winter.
So it's funny because that's how I felt about the Hostiles and desert and that Western scenery. I thought it looked good, and I don't know, I hate to say the gritty realism. It had something good where it really captured it well, exactly like you said. Yeah. The reason why I ask you about this cinematographer, though, is that he also did Hostiles.
So maybe he's
also did Black Mass.
Oh, he's buddied up with Cooper. So.
And he did Spotlight, which Howard Shore did the score for Spotlight. A lot of connectings, but also cinematographer also did The Gray, which is all snow with Liam Neeson, and cinematographer of Warrior as well.
What is his name? Ooh, I didn't mean to do that to you.
The name is
dancing around
Masanobu Takiyanagi.
Oh, okay, all right.
Thank you.
I think that was passing grade.
Thank you,
folks.
But a lot of connecting pieces here, basically. It's almost like a good
7
team.
degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever.
Right. So the reason why I saw editing is, too, because he worked on other films that Howard Shore and that Takiyanagi did, and
good.
also did There Will Be Blood and Boogie Nights. Like, he works with PTA a little bit, so it's like a
fantastic.
Very well staffed film.
Absolutely.
It's just a shame that we're not really hearing much about it, and yada yada yada.
And that's the black
spiel.
hole.
It's the same thing every time,
unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, but overall though, I would say it's a bit of a sleeper. and it will bound to get lost in the Netflix stew. But if kind of allow me to kind of pitch up a little bit here, if a cold winter mystery, or if anything, a very interesting inclusion of Edgar Allan Poe, both as an author but also as a character to play in this story, if that piques your interest, folks, give it a watch, and maybe even just put it on a watch list to get around to eventually. I mean, it's an easy barrier to entry for Netflix. And I think Cooper is coming out with another solid entry in his filmography. May not be a killer film, but definitely solid and a lot of attention to detail. We're going to go ahead and give The Pale Blue Eye a 64.
Okay, 64, that's a good movie.
Yeah.
Do you think this is just a good Saturday night watch, kind of?
Maybe not Saturday night.
No?
Maybe it's Sunday morning. Sunday afternoon.
Okay. That might be interested in checking this out.
Yeah.
Again, I do like Hostiles. I've seen it now a few times. But again, I like the team behind it.
Yeah. And again, Bale's great. Melling's even better, and I think that's
a plus.
Yeah,
that's a bonus.
Absolutely.
Wow, very cool. Great. Pale Blue Eye, 64%. You can watch it now on Netflix. We're gonna go ahead. Vin, I didn't know we also went to this movie. But we went to this movie for all of 12 seconds.
We poke our heads.
We were seeing if we could do a double theta, But this is called Skinamarink. This is not really rated. It is a very, very small budget horror.
I think $15,000 is the budget.
Okay, I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah, $15,000.
Yeah, that's wild.
And I'm looking at the theaters, and it looks like it's not a wide release. You will probably be able to find this in a theater near you, though.
Which is so surprising.
Yeah, like maybe 1 in 5, 1 in 6 theaters if you have some around you. I don't know why it's getting into such big theaters and not the small-time stuff. It's already done fine for itself, considering it was only $15,000 to make, which is unheard of.
Yeah, but like the fact that I've been trying to watch like Women Talking and Empire of Light, and that's not in theaters, but Skinamarink is. That's
true.
I have no idea. Like,
maybe it's like super. Maybe theaters don't even need to pay money for it barely.
Right,
you know what I mean?
It's real budget.
So much profit for them, or any ticket is profit for them. But again, it's called Skinamarink. It's a horror. I don't know if a lot of people have heard about this. So why don't you set it up a bit, Vin?
Sure. So this was not on my radar, and even when finding out about it, I kind of just assumed it was in the January fodder of horror movies. And I have to say, this is one interesting film. It is an oddball, and especially for as wide of a release that it's getting. I gotta say, folks, it is going to be seriously a coin flip, whether you will like it or not. I'm gonna do my best to describe it. Hopefully, I can kind of give a sense of if you like something else, this might be something to check out. Skinamarink is an experimental, and I mean experimental, horror film about two children stuck in their house. Their dad goes missing in the middle of the night, and this allows them to be free to watch cartoons in the dark and explore the implied fear of a dark, empty house. The story, quote-unquote story, is not concerned with engaging the audience. It's about capturing this feeling of being in the dark as a child. That would be how I pitch this film.
Interesting.
There is barely any script.
Really?
There is barely any music. I will say that this functions almost like a silent film in that you're kind of just absorbing just the visuals, and that's giving you the feeling alone. That's giving you the experience alone. The horror is really only clocked up when paranormal events start happening in the house, and we as the audience now take these quiet, nostalgic moments on screen and now are panicking and scanning the screen for these paranormal things that we need to pick up out of the lack of anything going on in the movie.
Really? So is there anything, but we do still follow these two children? Or they're just like, once in a while you'll see them in the house?
Yeah, once in a while they'll say like, hello? Or, they'll call for their mom or their dad.
Right.
But very minimal. It's, it's out there. And I will say, this approach I really want to give points for.
That sounds wild.
Yeah, this is not a January release. This is like a Sundance release. I don't know. And maybe that plays into why we're just getting it now. Maybe it achieved enough hype or kind of reverence that it's getting this like weird fake wide release.
Right.
However that's working on the back end.
But it sounds wild that really it's.
Yeah, there's almost a game to the movie because you take these moments and you're almost, again, nostalgic about it, and then some things kind of are flipped on. The paranormal side of it is flipped on.
Yeah. And
now the game is scanning the screen for anything hiding in the dark, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But it's cool that it's leaving it up to you to be part of it.
Yes.
Rather than you watching kids doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, props all the way for that.
Yeah. I was really about this. I was really like rooting for this film because it was from the budget, from how interesting it is. But
how was the shooting of it? Was it over the shoulder? Was it first person, or was it just fourth man in the room? Like you are the cameraman kind of.
That's definitely adds to the look here. So we never actually see our characters. The most we see is pajama pants and below.
Oh no shit!
Yeah. We never see the actual children.
Oh, that adds a creepiness.
Yeah, absolutely. Instead, shots are often the carpet with some Lego spilled on it, or the couch with a cartoon static being projected, kind of soaking the room and illuminating the room. Very cool cinematography here, and that is exclusively the film. I mean, honestly, this type of static lighting, and not static as in kind of one note or anything like that, actual TV static, that type of lighting was so interesting to again coat the room in kind of nostalgia, but also create this fear of the dark. You know what I mean? It's these two children. We're trying to step into their shoes and be scared of the dark once again, basically. Or maybe, I don't know. You scared of the dark, Tom? I'm a little scared of the dark sometimes. Huh. Maybe that's why I kind of was rooting for them. But
it's a wild premise. It's extremely simple, but extremely different. Extremely different.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say it's at its best when we have really artsy shots. For instance, there's a lot of shots that they love that it's just the wall molding on a hallway coming into a room, and there's just like this pitch black shadow that your eyes are so lasered in on to say, oh my God, is something gonna pop out?
Right.
I would say, better yet, the presentation here, very original, but it doesn't live up to all that it's building. And I think some people will see this and think it's absolute trash because they won't be hooked by the presentation and then by very little happening to the movie itself. Again, story is not the emphasis here. It is this feeling of the fear of the dark. Yeah. There's a lot of comparisons to other found footage type of films like Blair Witch and Paranormal Activity. I would call these a little bit off base.
Okay.
This film almost feels like a boiled down aesthetic more than anything. This feels like if you took like Poltergeist, the film Poltergeist, and just like wanted that as a style, no story, which is interesting. It's more about that as the focus than where with Blair Witch it's about going mad in the woods. Yeah, there are similar qualities to the horror that you're scanning the screen and kind of expecting something to happen, but the outcome and the objective of the film is very different, if that makes sense, what I'm saying.
Yeah, it does. It's the first horror in a while that I'm kind of interested in delving into.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great to hear because you're not into horror at all.
No, but it's I mean, I love the fact that it was only $15,000.
Yep.
I don't know why it's catching some sort of rhythm, or it's catching some sort of wave where it's in actual theaters, which is weird. It's an IFC film, and maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah, they obviously have to be doing the heavy lifting as far as distribution. So,
but I mean, everything you're saying, I'm digging.
Cool.
You know what I mean? Cool. Because it's not, maybe the problem with horror is it's so much schlock. It's so much repetitive, of just the same old jump scares, this, whatever.
Yep.
I mean, you look at that letdown with Smile. It did really well for horror and budget.
Sure.
But as
Marketing
far as
paid off.
Right, as far as delivering on what the film is, not so much.
Yeah.
This just sounds neat. I think it also helps because I saw 12 seconds of it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we walked out and you said, that looked freaking cool.
Yeah,
like, that's looking pretty cool.
That looks scary. Yeah, it got me to go watch it. So, I think the problem is the film looks much scarier than it actually is.
Right, and the payoff is you're really there for the experience. You're not there for any type of slam bam finish,
You're right.
or it's kind of like you're there and then it's over. An hour and 40 minutes of this.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think, and not something that I usually say about features, but this would have been dynamite as a short. Hour or 45-minute short. It would just distill what's there, and man, it really hit.
So an hour and 40, it did drag.
It only because, again, the look of these scenes, they're scary. Like, you'll see a scene of, like, again, these Legos on the carpet, and the noises ambient that are happening in the house, and you say, like, holy shit, this looks terrifying.
Right.
You know, like, really, like, piss your pants horror. But the fact is that you have an hour 40 minutes of the same type of scenes, and it just grows numb. You just grow numb to it. There's just not variation between characters. There's not a variation between story. I think also the film has an interesting detriment that we're not seeing characters be scared, which I'm not saying I need jump scares or a chick screaming in the camera, but that goes a long way to actually create investment into a horror
Yes,
plot.
I mean, basically what you're saying is an hour and 40 is fine, but you can't do the same thing that you were doing in minute 15 or 20.
Exactly.
You need to be doing more by hour and 20, hour and 30 in.
Exactly.
And the buildup wasn't there.
And the buildup wasn't there, almost to a frustrating point.
Yeah.
I feel like my theater, which was fairly packed, again, for this $15,000 film.
When you saw this on a Sunday?
I saw this on Saturday.
Wow, fairly packed.
After Puss in Boots. Yeah, because I think everyone was kind of like, what's going on here? And the theater was like angry at this film. It was like a waste of time type of anger.
You were just reading body language, or at the end,
people were just like talking about it when they were walking out. they were angry with us. So clearly, the style did not overcome the lack of substance.
You need context.
Yes,
you need context going into this thing.
And as good as these scenes look, the fact that, and it's not my usual critique of it's too long. I don't think it's too long.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like there's no variation in the scenes being presented, and it weakens its own fear.
It needed a build up, or at least a payoff.
Yeah,
and it just was consistent.
Very consistent.
Yeah, which I mean, if it's trying,
don't get me wrong, it gets there a little bit, but it's just again, it's just,
you were sitting there, kind of grinding your teeth, feel like
as spooky and as really terrifying as a scene looks, it gets watered down because there are a dime a dozen, basically.
Right. Okay.
You know, I think, like I said, there's definitely something lost not seeing actors scared on screen. I'm not saying I would want these very young kid actors trying to act scared or anything like that, but there's something lost there.
Okay.
So. But in a very real way, far too many screens are without reward, payoff, engagement, horror, and it's just an implied horror. I really loved the look of this film, and I was game to scan the screen and look for the subtle horror that might be lurking in the darkness, but I just think it's a lot to ask for a singular focus of an average movie watcher. Folks, I think if you decide to give this a chance, it would be recommended for me if you decided to give some of the silent film horror that we covered back in October a chance. I feel like this could have that same type of appeal. If that was engaging enough for you, Skinamarink will most likely be engaging for you as well, and I think this might hit for you. Otherwise, you might be better off looking for a scare by actually turning off the lights in your real room. We're going to go ahead and give Skinamarink a 45.
Ooh, okay, that's way lower than I thought. That's way lower than I thought you were going to give it.
Yeah, I believe me.
Why would you not give it higher?
I was rooting for it, but I'm telling you, it's just not there. You know what I mean?
Wow. So if it's a 45 for you, probably for a lot of people, it would be
way low.
Way low.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the fact that, I mean, if I went just blind into this, I would probably come out of it be confused and frustrated. If I know that this is what the deal is, and I agreed to go see it, then I don't think that I won't be sitting there being like, is it going to be more? Is it going to be more? It just is.
Yeah. And hopefully this is a great example. This movie that I had a hell of a lot to talk about for nothing that doesn't even have a single line of dialogue. You know, these are the type of movies I really do love covering on a podcast specifically because I can put context behind that. You need
context.
Score.
You can't just put a number to it.
Right. And there's certain things to love about this film, but it's just not there in the final result.
So this is a very good 45. This is a very happy 45.
Right. This is very much the how 40 to 60 is coin flip area. It can really hit for some. It can fall short for others.
Okay. All right. So 45% Skinamarink. It's probably one of the most interesting films you've seen in a while.
Yeah.
Which is cool. But, okay, all right. So we're going to go into our last film here. This is called Missing. This just came out this past weekend, so it's only a few days old. The director is Nicholas D. Well, first of all, let me go back to Skinamarink and just say Kyle Edward Ball was the director.
Sure.
And it would be cool if something else happens with him.
Yeah.
I hope we get maybe more from this. I wouldn't be surprised if, this could be just a watch if you see it on IFC. It's going to show up on IFC channel as well. But Kyle Edward Ball, maybe it's a name to kind of keep in mind with.
I think you bring up a great point because I think this is the type of look that on a second iteration can be fine-tuned, He can basically just fine-tune the concept. Actually,
well, not only that, he had $15,000. $15,000.
Right.
I just picture him with $1 million, which is still a very, very low budget for today.
Yeah, so maybe we'll cut Ball some break.
Anyway, this is Nicholas D. Johnson now. This is Will Merrick. This is Missing, our very new film. And Vin kind of set this up for us again. Not horror, but again, another little mystery, another thriller.
Yeah, definitely thriller.
Wide release as well. It's in theaters now. It's rated PG-13. What do we have?
Yeah, so our directors here, there's a little bit of a story. Johnson and Merrick were both editors on 2018 Searching. And that's an important film. Searching kind of came and went, stars John Cho, but has the identical same gimmick. The movie has the same premise of researching a missing family member, all from the perspective of a computer screen. Searching got a lot of praise when it came out for that. And we also have kind of an odd flip. We don't usually see editors, no less two editors, go from editor to director. There is no connection between these two movies, though, so don't sweat not seeing Missing, or rather Searching. and maybe, you kind of choose which one seems more attractive by the premise because they have the identical gimmick of being on this. So, in Missing, we follow teen girl June, excited for her mom to leave vacation. Her relationship with her isn't great, so it's happy trails to her and her new boyfriend until her mom never comes back from the trip. This spirals her into a deep dive mystery on the web, and that defines the presentation of the whole film. When I say deep dive, that kind of makes sense, going down the rabbit hole. Really dedicating a whole night to searching into things on the line. That makes sense, right?
Yes.
Okay. Has that vibe to, when you're really spending time online, sometimes you'll catch something and you'll just go down the rabbit hole again and again. That's kind of the point of this film. It's trying to be this deep dive, but combined with a mystery. Okay. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Sleuth it, just so she turns into an internet sleuth.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. The gimmick of the whole film is that every shot is presented on screen and from a piece of technology that the characters would use. 90% of this is presented from June's MacBook. There's an interesting cut montage that is multiple camera phones. There's some smartwatch camera action here, but 90%, I would say, is all from the MacBook screen that we see it through.
Wait, so we're sitting there, the entire screen is the image of the MacBook screen?
Yep.
So we're not seeing her on the MacBook screen. We're just like...
So this is where it gets into a little bit of unnaturalness of using that technology. If she's on Snapchat, if she's on FaceTime, that's a natural video of her. The suspension of disbelief here is that she is just keeping her Skype or webcam up and running while she's working on the computer constantly.
And that's how we're getting through this.
And that's how we're seeing the character. You hit on your reaction here is exactly my reaction. It's just like
it's an hour and 51 minutes.
Who the hell is doing this? Yeah, who the hell is doing this?
And she's also not. By the way, the director's not the first one to do this.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, this was like one of the mid seasons of Modern Family did an entire episode like this.
Really?
I'm not even joking.
That's maybe before Searching as well.
Yeah, it could be. Now maybe it's good because that was only 22 minutes. This is an hour and 51.
Right. Yeah,
but. I don't know. Props for the dedication to that.
Yeah, I would say on a.
You said around 90%.
Oh yeah.
Ish.
That's the gimmick. That's the whole point.
That's
of
the whole
film.
thing. Okay.
Yeah. The camera work is, I would say, clever. I specifically enjoyed, in the earlier parts of the film, the type of juggling of many different apps and the pace that switching between apps like an 18-year-old girl would be using a phone. So
right.
I think
it's just minimizing it up and minimizing
right. There was some true to life element to it here, but most of that originality fades as the movie goes on. That suspension of disbelief of how the presentation of this technology is portrayed on screen, your gut reaction here of saying, how is this a movie?
Mm-hmm.
That is what I take issue with. First of all, the mouse clicks and the general computer white noise is very annoying. In no way has a MacBook sounded like this in years, and I'm not even a Mac user.
Okay, so you gotta edit that sound out, basically.
Yeah, it's like... Man, I understand she's clicking on it. I don't need like the physical click of the button and then an audible click within the. It's a lot. It's real annoying. But I'll leave that note alone. That's a nitpick on me. My issue though is not with the natural product placement that comes here. I have no problem that she's using top-of-the-line apps.
Sure.
Or top-of-the-line technology. Siri, Alexa, Instagram, Snapchat, FaceTime, Apple. All of these things are thrown in constantly.
Sure.
And if anything, I applaud the film for being genuine. I would honestly hate if they had to make 100 made-up apps that were supposed to be spoofing the real thing. I'd rather them just be genuine and use the real apps.
It feels more real. It feels more real, yeah.
Exactly. My issue is that the presentation of the technology feels fake as shit. It is perfectly shown in any Snapchat video, FaceTime that is framed perfectly. Like, who is holding the camera with this perfect framing? It goes to what you said.
Well, you notice that immediately.
Oh, yeah.
That's when you want it should be real. Do handhelds. It would have been cool if this was all shot on iPhones almost.
Sure.
Like Tangerine or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you notice that instantly.
Yes.
And you got to cut that out.
You
need
read
a little,
my mind.
Add shaky camness to it.
Right. You need to add some amateurness to it.
Yes.
Because no one is holding this. She hires a hand for hire, but she hires this like
PI.
kind of like a PI. It's kind of like a Fiverr scenario where like they'll just do anything, I guess.
Okay, all right.
Anyway, she hires this guy, and like this guy has perfect framing, but he's like riding on a dirt bike through city streets, and it's like, who is holding this phone this way? There's to your note,
rookie mistake.
Yeah. To your note, you honestly perfectly said it, Tom. It is a gut reaction.
Yeah.
You're gonna see this and say, "Oh, my." This is still a movie, and I'm fine that it's a movie.
My BS meter is
exactly
off. It's that uncanny valley where you're just not selling it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and I think that is where this gimmick, this commitment to the gimmick, becomes a burden to the film because it's actually a pretty decent mystery.
It unfolds okay.
Yeah. There's a good thriller underneath it.
Really?
I think it is hindered by the obsession to stick to the gimmick. Use the gimmick to flourish some scenes, to create some interesting film styles. Do not adhere to it 100%. Because later on, when things need to be amped up in this thriller, this commitment to this MacBook presentation, this computer screen presentation, it's asinine. It falls apart because of the presentation. It's like, why would a camera be here? There's a camera in like a air vent, and it's like, what the?
It's like trying a little too hard.
Yeah,
it's trying a little too hard, not delivering.
Right. Exactly. So, or at that point, adjust your story to not have bombastic moments that clearly a camera is not going to be within arm's length of it, or less filming it perfectly.
Cut the gimmick. Cut the gimmick for Act 3 and totally switch gears or whatever.
This is a crime thriller. Why are there cameras around the crimes? It's just bad. It's just bad.
How was the girl?
Pretty good. And in those early moments, very good at selling again this. Christ, I sound like an old timer now, but this youthful use of technology.
Right. She sold her age.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And she seemed like, I don't know. Is there a lot of acting going on?
Yeah. I mean, she's
Okay,
on
all right.
camera near constantly.
Okay,
honestly.
it just
If
happens to be
anything.
through Skype or through this or that, the other
exactly.
thing.
Or
Okay.
this just like idling video feed of, she's not connected on a call to anyone, but she has like a video preview of herself.
Okay.
Like I said, I would imagine there is a similar problem with 2018 searching, but there are many points in the story that the story itself is weakened by this relentless commitment to the gimmick, to its own gimmick. And I think that was my problem with the film. But understand, or rather, I understand, weird things turn me off about film. So I understand.
I'm surprised you think that's weird. Why would that not annoy everybody? It would annoy me.
Well, maybe we're both weirdos.
I just think if you're gonna think about it, if you're dedicating in a movie to that, and you're just watching the screen of a person functioning, like you're not watching them taking control of the screen. The screen is just the screen,
Right.
Your movie screen.
Yeah,
you got to sell that. And if you're gonna do the FaceTime or the Skype or whatever, if it looks like it's fake, then it's just it throws it off. It throws it off completely.
I really did think it threw it off. But if that doesn't bother you folks, I think you have a solid mystery, and it's paid off in strictly the story. I would say many twists and turns kept me guessing, and I think that's a critical quality for a mystery to have nowadays, where, especially with the return of the whodunits, the March of the Whodunits that's coming back. Originality is very important to revitalize these type of stories. So I think there's even a bit of a cool meta element to the plot lines around obsession and, diving down the rabbit hole, researching, deep diving online. There's a little bit of a cool quality to that, because not only in the thriller is June getting obsessed with finding out the truth of what happened and why her mother is missing, but I think that's true to life in how, when you're online, when you're researching something, you can fall down a little bit of a rabbit hole. So there was some cool qualities to it. For me, I think the gimmick was just such a large burden for the film and has yet to be done. Believe me, when a movie like this comes out and the gimmick feels real, that gut check, that gut feeling I'll have, I will be the first to praise it. For now, we're going to go ahead and give Missing a 57.
57, okay. I don't know what to think about that. I don't know what to think of this film. I don't really have interest in seeing it.
Yeah, well,
I have interest in you watching that Modern Family episode and seeing, was it done better or worse?
Right.
Seriously.
Right. I think this is a strategic time to take another crack at this concept from 2018 searching. I don't know. We'll pull the Modern Family up whenever that was year. But I think it's strategic timing because of the return of true crime type of obsession.
Yeah, very true.
This is a film you can place yourself in the shoes of June and get obsessed with this kind of true crime type of approach.
And it's very strategic that it's PG-13. You know the target audience is, the parents can drop the kids off at the theater.
Sure.
This feels a little adult, feels a little
absolutely.
creepy, weird. It's definitely a good young adult film.
Yep.
And I think it's scratching an itch a little bit. I mean, I'm not doing so hot in the theaters, obviously.
Oh, really?
I don't think it's supposed to be. I don't think it's supposed to be that.
Yeah.
Would you, even though you gave Skinamarink a 45% and Missing a 57, would you maybe push people to go see Skinamarink more?
Yes, because I would just want them to make up their mind on it. And I know that's not translated in the score, but I think, again, there's an execution problem with Skinamarink. So.
Okay, Ben. So looking at these, you want to... I have something else.
Oh, you have something. I have something else.
Okay, I'll start, then you can finish how we naturally do it. I forgot to bring this up when we finished the Pale Blue Eye. Mm-hmm. Our newly elected senator is in the film.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. John Fetterman
is in the film? Wait, how?
He plays Tavern Man. And his wife plays Tavern Woman.
Wow. Was it a PA production?
Uncredited.
Or
I don't know.
Is Cooper...
I don't
Cooper's
know.
Keystone.
But John Fetterman was in.
Wow.
John Fetterman was in the film.
Hey. Good
anyway,
work if you can get it, huh?
Fun little note. But Vim, looking at these films here, what do you want to end on? What do you want to touch on here?
Not the films at all. This was a tough week. Two notes. As I've said before, I hate goddamn trailers. The trailers that I saw for Knock at the Cabin Door and Ant-Man particularly gave away so goddamn much. It angered me. Knock at the Cabin Door specifically because, believe me, we're going to be covering it not too long. The first trailer gave you the perfect amount of what you want. Shyamalan knows how to cut a trailer.
Yeah.
This second trailer, it is generic music. It gives you everything away. I'm not even excited for the film.
And I feel like directors hate trailers as well.
Yeah.
And this is why I feel there's big enough directors out there. You have Marvel, they have you in a vice. You have no choice. But like, for instance, we brought up Paul Thomas Anderson earlier. He directs his own trailers, and that's like in the the signing and everything like that. Yeah, for the film, because it's such a shame. Well, I mean, look at 80 for Brady. They gave away the whole movie. Now you're not going to go see it because you saw the movie already.
Right, no, I'm not. That's the straw that broke the camel's back.
Anything else you want to touch on? Or rolling credits here.
Just the rare good watch as far as series TV, gotta say. Last of Us on HBO, pretty killer. And actually,
you're watching it.
Yeah, I am.
Wow, you have time to watch more things?
No, not really, but it's more on in the background.
Wow.
Believe me, I'm not taking notes.
I don't know when the last... I can't believe you're watching a show.
And no joke, anime-wise, there's an anime called Chainsaw Man. Phenomenal.
And it's new?
Brand new.
How can we get it? How can we find it?
Crunchyroll's the juggernaut in anime streaming right now.
Oh.
They bought out actually Funimation. So,
very cool.
Yeah, so those two, the rare shout out I give to it.
That's a big, folks, that's a big deal that he's bringing up TV.
Thoroughly enjoying it.
Wow,
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
That's awesome, Vin. I'll make one other moment.
You sure?
Because I forgot to mention this again. I'm a mess this week. I believe Skinamarink is coming on Shudder in early February.
Oh, that doesn't Shudder have some crossover with IFC?
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be surprised because I think IFC, I saw, is coming out with one or two more horrors soon. But we talked about it before. Shudder is it's like a Netflix, but for horror.
Yeah.
And I think it's cheap. I think it's $5 or $8, but I know there's some people that really, really love that. It might be worth a buy. And but again, it's going to come on there. Okay, Vin, thank you so much for watching these films. I had a blast seeing Puss in Boots with you. It was great to go to the movies with you.
It really was.
We got to do that more.
Yep.
But thanks for stopping by. Thanks for reviewing these films for us. Folks, we're running down one more time here. We have 47 Ronin with a 26%. Puss in Boots, The Last Wish with a 72, The Pale Blue Eye with a 64, Skinamarink with a 45, and Missing with a 57%. Folks, thank you so much for listening. Brandon, thanks for producing, and we'll see you all next week on the Daily Ratings Podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, if you would, could you give us a good rating or tell a friend about us? If you're wondering if a film is worth a watch, or if you just like to see more movie ratings from Vince, be sure to stop by thedailyratings.com. We have our ever-expanding catalog of films. Also, if you found value in the podcast or our site, become a producer and go to the donations tab on thedailyratings.com. You can donate whatever amount of value you feel you received from us. We're looking to build this into something large and great, but also be independent from those corporate sponsors. So we greatly appreciate any support from you all. So thanks so much, and we'll see you next time on the Daily Ratings Podcast.